Welcome to Gentle Calm. Some people do not explain themselves because they have too much to say. They explain because the simple version of their truth has not always felt safe. They add context before anyone asks. They soften the sentence, defend the feeling, and keep talking after the honest part has already been said. At first, this can look like communication. You are trying to be clear, fair, and thoughtful. But over time, explaining can become self-protection. It becomes a way of making your inner life acceptable before someone has a chance to question it. You may explain why you are tired, why you need space, why you said no, or why something hurt. A simple no can feel unfinished. A simple preference can feel rude. A simple boundary can feel like it needs a full history behind it. So you keep adding more reasons, more background, more proof. You are no longer just speaking. You are building a case for why you are allowed to feel what you feel. That is exhausting because self-defense is exhausting when it becomes your normal way of relating. Somewhere along the way, many people learned that honesty was not enough. Maybe they were challenged too often. Maybe their feelings were dismissed. Maybe their boundaries were treated like negotiations. Maybe their no was only accepted after they were visibly upset, completely drained, or finally angry enough to be taken seriously. So now the old pattern turns on before the conversation even begins. You explain before anyone asks. You answer the imagined objection before it appears. That is what overexplaining often is. It is not clarity. It is anticipation. It is the nervous system trying to outrun rejection. It is the mind trying to make you impossible to criticize. But no amount of explanation can make you completely safe from being misunderstood. Some people are not confused by your words. They are uncomfortable with your boundary. Some people do not need more context. They need you to stay available in the way they prefer. That is why overexplaining becomes a trap. You believe the right sentence will finally make them understand, but the issue may not be understanding at all. The issue may be that your honesty changes something. It asks someone to adjust, accept a limit, or stop benefiting from your silence. When that is the real problem, more explanation will not free you. It will only keep you defending a truth that was already clear. This does not mean you should become cold or careless. It means you can be kind without turning every decision into a defense. There is a difference between clarifying and overexplaining. Clarifying gives enough information for honest understanding. Overexplaining keeps reaching for approval after the truth has already been spoken. You can feel the difference in your body. Clarity feels clean, even when it is difficult. Overexplaining feels tense, like you are trying to remove every possible reason someone could judge you. But people can criticize anything. Your tone, your timing, your reasons, your feelings, your need for space. If your peace depends on being impossible to criticize, you will never be free. This is why some people become very articulate and still feel powerless. They can explain everything and still feel guilty for having a need. That is not a communication problem. It is a permission problem hiding inside language. It is the belief that your truth only counts after someone else agrees it is reasonable. But your exhaustion does not need to become collapse before it matters. Your discomfort does not need to become resentment before it counts. Your no does not need to arrive with a full documentary. Sometimes the most honest sentence is also the shortest one. I cannot do that. I need time. That does not work for me. I am not available for that conversation. I have decided to do something different. These sentences can feel too bare at first because they leave you with no padding and no performance. That bare feeling is not always wrong. Sometimes it is the feeling of no longer hiding behind explanation. A person who has overexplained for years may feel rude when they become clear. But clarity is not cruelty. A boundary is not an attack. A limit is not a personal failure. You are allowed to communicate without handing someone every private detail that led you there. Not everyone needs the full story. Not every decision needs to be unpacked for public acceptance. Some things can be true and still remain partly private. This matters for people who learn to make themselves emotionally available to avoid conflict. They learn to soften someone else's discomfort by offering more explanation than was actually needed. They learn to wrap their truth in apology so it would be easier to digest. But you do not have to apologize for every honest shape your life takes. You do not have to make your boundaries sound like accidents. You do not have to make your needs sound unfortunate. If directness was punished, over-explaining may have become protection. If your feelings were dismissed, details may have become your armor. But protection can become a prison when it keeps operating after the danger has changed. What once helped you survive may now be keeping you in constant self-defense. And a life lived in self-defense becomes small. You start choosing words based on who might object instead of what is actually true. You rehearse conversations before they happen. You carry imaginary arguments in your head. You lose energy to people who are not even in the room. That is why stopping the explanation is not only about communication. It is about reclaiming inner authority. It is about trusting that your experience can be real before it is perfectly translated. This will not feel natural immediately. The first few times you say less, your body may panic. You may want to go back and add one more sentence, then another, then another. That urge is part of the old training. You do not have to obey it every time. You can notice it, breathe, and let the clean sentence remain clean. That is where the practice begins, not in becoming silent, but in becoming precise. Say what is true. Say what is necessary. Then stop before truth becomes pleading. There is dignity in that pause. It lets your words keep their shape. It teaches your nervous system that you can survive being brief. You can survive not being perfectly understood. You can survive someone having a feeling about your boundary. This is one of the hardest freedoms, letting someone misunderstand you without abandoning yourself to fix it. Some relationships deserve fuller conversation, patience, and care. But even there, you do not need to disappear into explanation. You can offer context without surrendering your authority. The question is not whether you should ever explain. The question is whether you are explaining from clarity or from fear. Are you explaining because someone genuinely needs information, or because you are afraid your truth will not be allowed to stand? If you notice yourself rushing to justify, pause and ask what you are trying to prevent. Are you trying to prevent disappointment, conflict, criticism, distance, or someone seeing you differently? That awareness matters because sometimes the explanation is not really for them. Sometimes it is for the frightened part of you that still believes acceptance must be earned through performance. That part does not need punishment. It needs reassurance. It needs to learn that being clear is not the same as being unsafe. Start smaller than you think. Choose one place where you normally over-explain and practice saying only what is needed. Not harshly, not dramatically, simply and cleanly. Maybe it is, I cannot make it this time. Maybe it is, I need to think about that. Maybe it is, I am not comfortable with this. Then let the space after the sentence exist. Do not rush to fill it. That space may feel uncomfortable, but it is also where your authority begins to return. You do not have to decorate every truth to make it acceptable. You do not have to convince everyone that your boundary is reasonable. You only have to know that it is honest, necessary, and yours. Some people may respect you more when you explain less. Others may resist because the shorter version gives them less to argue with. Either way, the practice is the same. Stay with the truth without turning it into a performance. There is a calmer way to speak, a way that does not apologize for existing, a way that allows you to be warm and still complete. You may still explain sometimes. You may still offer context when it is useful. But you no longer have to explain yourself as if your personhood depends on it. Your truth does not need to arrive with a closing argument. Your boundary does not need to arrive exhausted. Your needs do not have to become extreme before they are valid. So stop over-defending what you already know is true. Stop turning every clear sentence into a plea. Say what is real. Say what is needed. Then let the sentence stand. Thank you and stay calm.